So some of the most popular films nowadays are either remakes or, adaptations from another medium. And so there's a large majority of people who probably haven't read the books that some of these films are based off of. And I'm going to have to admit, there are some films that I have seen the adaptations of, and I still haven't read the books. Or, sometimes I read the books afterwards. So this is a list of some movies or movies or TV shows that I've watched, and then later on went back and read the books, or in a couple of cases, I'm going to start with are adaptations that I have watched the films of and still haven't read the books. Let's just start with the films I haven't read the books of yet. And there's a couple of them that falls into this category. I was, doing a little bit of research before making this, and I remembered again that How to Train Your Dragon is technically an adaptation of a book it was based off of. It's completely different as far as I can see, but I haven't read that book yet, so I don't know. But yeah, it's based off of a book. Another one would be The Bridge to Terabithia. I was younger, I watched that, and I just never picked up the book. My sisters have read the book and actually haven't watched the movie, but I never thought of picking up the book because I watched it. It was like, wow, okay, that's crazy. And then I got busy with other stuff. By the time I thought about, oh yeah, there is a book that it's based off of, I was a little older and it was really not my age group anymore, so I just never read it. And maybe one day I'll read it to my kids or something. I don't know, but I haven't read it, and at this point I probably won't read it just because I just simply have more important stuff to do now than read a children's book like that. Another one on the list would be I've watched all of Game of Thrones, but I haven't read any of the books. The end of Game of Thrones, everyone knows, is awful. The books haven't ended yet, so we'll see how that goes, and if it ever ends. But yeah, I haven't actually read the books. I just watched the TV show. Most people are in the same camp. No, I've heard of people who have actually read the books, but a lot of people just haven't read the books and they just watched the show. Another one, of course, it would be The Jungle Book. I grew up watching the Disney version of The Jungle Book. I've watched a couple other versions too, but it is based off of a book. The Jungle Book. And I haven't read that yet. Another one that most likely I might not read ever. A lot of these on this list are probably stuff I will not read. This is a book channel, so not because I'm saying it's not worth reading, but it's just, it's no longer in my range of books that I want to read, so probably won't read them. That's just the fact that I haven't read it. Another one on the list would be that I am planning on reading the books, I just haven't got to it, and maybe for Halloween season I'll read these books and give out my reviews for them. But that's Dracula, Frankenstein, and all those books that I just haven't read yet. I own the full set. I don't have it here in Alaska with me, but I have the full set of all of the Universal monsters. I love Dracula. Frankenstein is also really good, but I haven't actually read the books, and I keep meaning to read the books. But I was going to buy those books and then read them and then put those as some of my first reviews, but I'm like, no, I'm gonna wait and I'm gonna do that as a Halloween thing. Here's some Halloween books. And the next one is Gone with the Wind. Another one, I haven't read the book, but will probably plan to read the book sometime. I've watched the movie plenty of times. It's a classic, but I'm going to read the book because it's a classic and it's important also. And I might actually put out a review for that book on this channel because it's important to be able to look at the past and be like, oh, hey, look how racism was. It's important to look back, but also not overly dwelling on the past and on the issues of the past. But in the same way, I think it's important. That's another one I haven't read yet. That of the Maze Runner trilogy. I haven't read the books yet. In this case, what happened was, my little sister's friend wanted to watch the movies with her back when they were 12 or something, and my mom asked me to watch the movies. Tell her if they were any good and if my sister could watch them. And so I did it, and I was not impressed by the movies. Not that they were terrible and oh no, you can't watch them, but in the way of they're just not good. They're simply not good. I won't talk about the movies too much on this channel because, I put out a video, one of the first videos I put out on my film channel was talking about the top 5 trilogies I absolutely hate and the top 5 that I absolutely love. And in that, I talk about the Maze Runner trilogy on the list of those I hate. But to sum it up, basically, my thoughts were that the first one just seemed like it was a ripoff of The Hunger Games. The second one was just a average zombie apocalypse movie. And the third one was an action movie that really had no point to it. So, yeah. But in that comment section of that video, someone mentioned that they wanted me to read the books because the books are 10 times better. And so I told them if I ever start a book channel, I would review them. And so now start a book channel, and I'm like, I guess I have to stick to that promise, even though that person may never see those reviews for that video now, because that was like 3 years ago or something. So the person might have moved on now, but I'm gonna have to review them sometimes. But I'm honestly not looking forward to it. I have a friend who only last year read the books, and she loved them. So I assume they're probably all better than the movies. But man, I hated those movies. Like, not like hated, but just in the way of like, there's nothing special about them. They're kind of just generic, and I don't know. I wouldn't want to watch them again for that reason, but I have to read the books just for the sake of that, and then put out reviews on them. So you can look forward to that someday on that topic. But movies, I have read the books. Another one would be Percy Jackson and the Olympians. I grew up knowing about the books, but I didn't have access to the books as much. Like one of my older sisters had all the books. She had moved out by then, and so by the time I was getting interested in that stuff, I never got the chance to read her books of them. I now own most of the series, and I've read all the Percy Jackson books, all the Heroes of Olympus, and all of the Trials of Apollo series. I heard about them growing up. One day I was just online, and I was looking over some stuff, and I came upon, I think it was just free on YouTube or something, I just saw, hey, okay, free with ads, the first Percy Jackson movie. I heard it was terrible, but in the same way, I'm like, my sister keeps talking about how great they are, about how great the books are. So I'm gonna watch this movie and see if it's any good. Watched the movie, hated it, and then I came upon the second one, watched that one too. Just like, okay, I have to see what this is, where it's going with this. Hated that one too. It actually, to be completely honest, it actually turned me off from reading the books. Like, by that point, only like a year later, I had the first two books. I read the first book. I was like, I don't know. Started the second book, just couldn't get into it. In the end, just put them down. And it wasn't until I was, working a job where I was, sorting a library and I had nothing else to do. I'm like, screw it, I'm going to listen to the audiobooks of Percy Jackson. And I read them. And then right after them, I'm like, I'm going to start on the Heroes of Olympus. And then after that, just, boom. I read most of them. I haven't read the other mythology ones. But yeah, I didn't read them until I was an adult. And so, my opinion, like, I have a sister who's obsessed with them right now, and we have conversations, and I love them. I mean, I'm big into mythologies and all. That's one of the reasons why I didn't get into it in the first place, was because I love reading stuff like the Iliad and all. And so reading a book like that, it's just like, it just dumbs it down, in my opinion. It dumbs down all these, like, these great stories in mythology. It's like, so I couldn't get into it because of that. I don't know. I did read them. I do like them. I'm a fan of them, but in the same way, I'm like, as we record the video, tomorrow is this finale for season 2 of the TV show that came out. And I've been watching it every week, but in the same way, it's not like when each episode of Stranger Things were coming out, and I was watching them as soon as they came out. It's like, one day, it was like, when the finale came out, I waited until it showed up, started watching it, watched it, then immediately grabbed my food, ran out the door to go to work. I'm like, I was that big. With this one, I'm like, I don't know. I watch it, and I'm like, okay, wait until next week, watch the next. And it's like, I haven't been that interested in the second season. The first one I kind of liked. The second one, it just hasn't been standing out for me as much. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts when it comes to Percy Jackson now. It's just like, yeah, I'll talk about more of that in reviews of those books. But yeah, that's kind of where it comes down to, is, like, I just have a little bit of I got into it at the wrong time in my life. I would have loved that series if I got into it when I was like 12 or something. I really should have asked my sister if I could borrow the books and read the books instead of just watching the movies, which were awful. Next one on the list would be Harry Potter. I grew up in a very Christian household. One of those Christian households where the no reading books like Harry Potter and all. And so I was 16, I think. Actually, I was 15 when I watched the movies. But then I was only it was during COVID that I was down with Lyme disease, and I had nothing else to do, so I was in the attic by myself, and I listened to the audiobooks a bit. Right now, I'm actually in the middle of reading the audiobooks, listen to the audiobooks again, because right after one of the reasons why I wanted to put out this video was because of the reason that, to advertise the fact of the next series I'm working on putting out reviews for is Harry Potter. I just finished the 4th book, and I'm going into the 5th book now. And so I'm going to put out reviews for each of the books as I'm done with them. That's one of the big reasons why I wanted to have this video in the first place. But yeah, I watched the movies. They were I liked them. They weren't my favorite, but I did like them. And listen to the books later on. Something that has changed my opinion now, reading through them again. But the first time I read the books, I'm like, honestly, and a lot of Harry Potter fans are gonna hate me for this, I thought the movies were better. I did, generally, I just thought the movies were better. Now, as someone who has a book channel and is reviewing, getting the chance to review the books instead of just the films, man, the books are better. I'm more and more, recently, I haven't been watching that much movies or anything because I've been getting busy with books, and I love that. I prefer books over movies, as I've said before, and so being able to then actually just accept that, and now reading these books again, I'm like, yeah, the books are better. There's something nice about not having the visuals, if you know what I'm saying, having to imagine stuff in your head. I just love that about books. We'll talk about books and why books are so much better than movies in a different video, but yeah. The next one is the one that really gave me this idea of making this video in the first place, and that is The Princess Bride. Just put out a review 2 weeks ago for The Princess Bride, and it was my first time ever reading the book, and I can't believe that I waited so long to read the book. That book is amazing, and I think it's better than the film. As I said in that video, The Princess Bride was my family's movie. It was the movie we watched all the time, and so I can't believe I waited 23 years before I finally read the book. But yeah, I got to it eventually. The next one on the list is something that I'm in the middle of the second book of this series, and I just before recording this video, I actually finished watching for the 5th time or something in a row, Hannibal. But yeah, the Hannibal series, or more talking about the film adaptations of it, which is, Red Dragon or Manhunter, The Silence of the Lambs, and then Hannibal. I actually haven't watched Hannibal, but I've watched the first two, and I'm in the middle of reading The Silence of the Lambs. That's another one that I've seen the TV series Hannibal so many times. I love that series, but I haven't read the books, and now I finally got around to reading the books. And watching it again after reading the books, yeah, the books are better, but in some ways. There are a lot of things I like about the film, but I think the best adaptation of Red Dragon is the book. Even though it's not an adaptation, but it's there's so much details that you're missing in other version of Red Dragon that the book has. You just I don't know. I like the book more. I'm kind of tempted to put out a review for the book because I do have thoughts about that. But we'll see. Another one that I already put out a review for is that of A Christmas Carol. Watched the 1950s version of that plenty of times as a kid. Finally got around to reading the book this Christmas for my Christmas video, but great book. I rewatched the film adaptation that I grew up with right after reading the book. That film adaptation was great too, but yeah, the book is amazing. I love that book. Another one I want to mention is my introduction to the world of the Trojan War. I don't know if anyone else has the same experience, but my first introduction to it was Cruella Kid Adventures, The Trojan Horse. I loved that movie growing up. My family would get it from the library at the time, and I just loved that movie. I was obsessed with the Trojans because everyone else in my family said they were the bad guys, and because they wore red, I was obsessed with them for that reason, because my favorite color growing up was red. And there was something about just the fact that everyone else took the side of the Greeks that made me want to take the sides of the Trojans. But I remember growing up loving that movie and loving the fact that I was the only one in my family who thought the Trojans should have won, and I always found it sad that they didn't win. But yeah, nowadays, one reason why I want to make sure to bring that up is nowadays, I haven't talked too much about on this channel yet, but outside of Lord of the Rings, my favorite book is the Iliad. I love the Iliad, and I will put out so many videos talking about the Iliad and how great it is. And so for that reason, I just wanted to make sure to mention, that was my introduction. That Cruella Kid's Adventure was my introduction to this world that now is a part of my personality practically. And I hadn't read that book until I was much older, which is a good thing. But in the same way, I just, as I was preparing for this video, I just randomly thought of, oh yeah, that was how I was introduced to that in the first place. Another one I want to quickly mention on the kid side of things would be Winnie the Pooh, which is I find really interesting, just like with the Iliad and how that has shaped so much of my storytelling. The same goes with Winnie the Pooh. I grew up watching those movies. I didn't read the books for some reason when I was little that much. Like, I had other books I read. I read Narnia, the Narnia series all the time as a little kid. Yeah, I really question why that was the case, because of the fact of one day when he put out some children novels, and one of the big stories there is based off of some of my stuffed animals. That's the way I would describe it if someone asked me, how do you describe that series? I would say it's my version of Winnie the Pooh, because it's so much like Winnie the Pooh and not in like a copy way. Like, it was created by me, but I wonder how much it would have shaped differently
if I had actually read Winnie the Pooh at that time. Anyways,
two I want to mention is first, Les Miserables. I watched the film adaptation of it. Was not that impressed. I liked some of the music. I had a cold in that time, and so I was a little bit confused what was going on. But then later on I read the book, and I liked the book. So I had to go back and rewatch the movies and see if I actually like it or not. And the last one I want to talk about is that of the Hunger Games. Funny enough, when I first started into the movies, I started into the second one, got confused, realized it was the second one, and then went back and started the first one. But yeah, I watched the movies first, and then later, like maybe a year or so later, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna pick up the books. Picked up the books, had my opinions on the books. I'll put out reviews for them eventually. Love those books for the most part. At that point, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes was just coming out, so I read the book. Then the movie came out, watched the movie. Then, while I do have my negative opinions on the Hunger Games, and I will talk about them later, I can also say that Sunrise on the Reaping is the first book I've ever pre-ordered. Almost the moment I noticed that it was up for pre-order, I ordered it, got it the first day it came out, read it the first day. I had work that evening, and I read it the first day it came out. I woke up, I went to work, of course, had to keep it in my car and all. On break, I started reading it, got home the next day. The moment I woke up, I just flip. By the time I was leaving for work, I had finished the book. I love that book, and I'm definitely not to put a review for that, and I can't wait for the film to come out. Though, funny enough, the biggest criticism I have with the movie so far, after watching the trailer, is I kind of liked Haymitch in the first movie, but by the time I was watching the second movie, I'm like, I fell in love with this character. I'm like, I don't know too much about this character. There's something about him that stands out to me. I'm like, okay, not just that he's a goofball, but like that there's something deeper going on there. And you don't really explore that in the movie as much. But when I read the books, I'm like, this is why. And I'm like, oh, that's epic. And I'm like, I know why I love this character. And so I had put in my opinion, if they ever made that, I would totally want them to make a film adaptation of his life before I realized they were actually putting out a book about it. And I just kept imagining in my head the idea of me playing Haymitch. Funny enough, so then when the book came out, it's like one of the first books I've read, and I'm like 100% seeing myself, because like Haymitch, he's me. He's just the way he acts in the Sunrise and the Reaping is just how I would act if I was in a situation like that. So I'm like, yeah, I love that. I loved being able to read that book, and I came from the standpoint of, I was reading this book, and I had in the back of my head, I had this idea of, I'm going to play this character, and so I read the book and thought of myself as the character the whole time. And so watching the trailer and seeing someone else playing Haymitch, it's not that it, I don't know what would it, but it's just like, I feel critical of that guy more just from the fact that I had no chance of getting that role. Like, I never even put in for it at all. But for the fact that I wanted to, made it so it's like, I'm super critical of the fact that someone else is playing it. And I'm like, I don't know. I know why, but it's like, yeah. So, yeah, those are the films I've watched before the books. This video is more leaning towards the films, even if this is a book channel, but I just wanted to mention this before I start viewing all of the Harry Potter books. I just wanted to put out this video, give you guys a little bit of foreshadowing for what's coming. These are some books I'm definitely going to talk about on this channel, because like, I love these most of these, I love the films, and there are definitely books I want to review too. But the big thing is that I did watch the movies first, and in another video, I might talk more about why it is important that you read the books first and all. But yeah, for right now, that's basically what I wanted to talk about. Comment below if there's any books that you haven't read or you read after watching the film adaptation of. I bet there's plenty that did not make this list, and some of them is because I haven't watched or read the books yet. One thing I was noticing is, like, as I was looking through trying to find stuff, there are multiple things like, oh yeah, I'm going to watch the movie sometime, but I haven't watched it yet, and thus maybe I should just read the book first and then watch the movie. That's for the reason that now I can not do that same mistake I made before. Again, I can read the book and then watch the movie. Most likely, if it's a popular book that everyone knows has an adaptation of, and I didn't mention in this list, it's most likely probably because I read the book and the movie. You know, like Lord of the Rings. I'm obsessed with Lord of the Rings. There's no way I did not read the books before. Like, I read the books and was starting to Silmarillion before I watched the movies. I mean, a lot of those on that list of, you know, even Jurassic Park. I actually read that book as a kid, but I didn't watch that movie until last year. Like, so there are a lot of those that you might be wondering why I didn't make that list, why I didn't make the list. It's probably because I actually did read the book first. If you want to see those Harry Potter videos when they come out, or when I review The Hunger Games or Red Dragon or something like that, consider subscribing. Thank you guys for watching. Peter Wary, signing off.